Welcome back to another episode of STEM and Stilettos. This is your host, Zofia Morales. I'm here with Dinah Davis, the founder of Code Like a Girl. And today we're going to discuss how you know when it's time to leave a job, because there are moments, there are signs that, you know what, you've done what you can do here and you should move on to the next thing. So Dinah Davis, as mentioned, the founder of Code Like a Girl, a community for women in tech who are tired of facing it alone and staying quiet about what it's really like. She launched this in 2016, and it's a place where women don't have to explain why it's hard, don't have to feel gaslit, and can just be themselves, understood, and part of a community that they actually want to be in. A former VP of engineering and a 20-year career spanning software development, cryptography, mobile security, and engineering leadership. Dinah brings both a technical depth and hard-won perspective to her work. Code Like a Girl is her primary focus today, where she's building a home for women shaping the future of technology. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here with me, Dinah.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about how you ended up in engineering, which is an atypical place for most women to arrive in. And so I'd love to understand that journey a little bit.
Yeah. So one interesting little nuance is that in Canada, I can't actually say that I'm in engineering because I do not have an actual engineering degree. I have a software development and degree. And in Canada, it's a very they protect that word very, very carefully. Can only be used for people who actually have engineering degrees. But obviously we use it more widely because especially in the States, it's used to mean software.
Engineering is an actual field, yes.
Yeah. But in Canada, you would have had to get a software engineering degree. So anyway,
to use that.
I have 2 math degrees with a smattering of computer science courses as part of that and leveraged that into a degree in tech as a software developer.
Well, and I think you and I kind of share a generation. When I was in school, it wasn't really an option. You could take some specific classes in it, but it wasn't a degree program.
It was a degree program when I was in school.
Okay.
It's just not one I realized I should be in. And that, I guess, is part of my story, really. My story kind of goes back to high school, where I was really interested in math and science. And I went to my high school counselor, and because I didn't really know what to do. And I was like, well, I'm really good at math. I have very, very high grades. And he was like, oh, that's fantastic. You should become a math teacher. Because, that's what women who are good at math
teach. Exactly.
do.
That used to irk me. You should be a teacher.
But that is not what he told all the boys who were in my calculus class, even though me and another girl had the 2 top grades in that calculus class. But I also didn't know any better. I was 17, graduating high school. So I went off to the University of Lethbridge in Alberta because they have this amazing program where you can get 2 degrees in 5 years.
Nice.
So a concurrent teaching degree. And in my second year, you kind of, the first 2 years are just your basic.
Do all of the rudimentary math, science, language stuff. Yeah.
And then you have to take this pre-education course where it's a pass-fail course. And you need that to go to the education year the next year. And it actually puts you in the classroom immediately in your second year of university. And I hated it.
Yes.
I really did not enjoy it. And I realized
we went from nice in theory to a horrible reality.
Yeah. I realized I cared more about learning new mathematics than learning the politics or teaching the same thing over and over to children. And I felt like if you're going to be a good teacher, you need to love the teaching the children part, not the subject part. And so I quickly self-selected out of that program. And in my 3rd year of university, I was required to take a computer science course. And it was part of my degree program. You had to take Intro to Computer Science if you're getting a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics. And all my friends who were in humanities told me it was this horrible course that was really hard.
And you will be tortured. You will want to poke your eye out with a needle instead of go to class. Yes.
Exactly. And I can still remember walking into that auditorium today and sitting down and having the instructor, Dr. Liu, start instructing the class and just having this moment of like, this is computer science? This is math.
Yeah,
Math.
and
This is
this
just
is
another
awesome.
syntax for math. This is so cool. And I just, in that moment, fell in love with computer science. So now I'm in my third year. I'm not going to switch degrees.
Yeah.
And I just tried to take as many computer science courses as I could after that. I did end up being able to do a research term with Dr. Liu the following summer. And then I was like, well, how am I going to get a job after university if I just have a math degree and some computer science courses? I better join the co-op program. So in Canada, it's called the co-op program. In the States, it's probably
like
more of an internship program.
Yeah.
Right. Difference being you have to be paid in Canada. You cannot do free internships. It's illegal.
Nice.
So
no free work.
no free work here. And so I did that, and I saw this job posting and it said, looking for a mathematician who can code. And I was like, hello,
That'd be me.
That's me. And it was for the Canadian government, for the CSE, which is the counterpart of NSA in the United States. And that's what they needed. So I signed up. It was crazy. I had to get top secret security clearance as a student just to work there. And the interesting thing is that what they were doing at the time, this was, I believe, 99, maybe around 99, maybe maybe it was 2000. I always mix up those dates, but around that time. And what they were doing, the whole agency plus NSA, was evaluating cryptographic algorithms to replace AES. AES had been tripled as a symmetric key algorithm, and now computers were too strong and they were breaking these symmetric key algorithms. So we needed to add there
needs to be a better way. Yes.
Right. So the project they had me do the first day I got there was they handed me the Bluetooth white paper.
Okay.
And said, the Bluetooth white paper, and said, we need you to write this in C++ so we can attack it and see what is happening with it. Now, I worked on the public side of this organization, so I can talk about that. And essentially what happened, they thought it would take me 4 months to write this, and it took me half that time. So I was bored for the other half, but
bored but paid.
Bored but paid, and introduced to cryptography, which was this next level of bringing together the two things I loved, which was mathematics and computer science. And we determined that Bluetooth is not secure at all, but it's a good key sharing tool. Sure. And who knew that it would be so ubiquitous in our life later? And I was probably one of the first people who actually wrote it up as an algorithm, like as a actual working piece of code, which is kind of crazy. And so what ended up happening was, if you wanted the good jobs at CSE, you needed a graduate degree. An undergraduate degree got you kind of some of their more entry-level jobs, but the interesting crypto jobs, they needed a master's degree. And so I ended up going to the University of Waterloo in Canada, which is basically the equivalent of MIT in the States.
Okay.
For cryptography, it's not easy to get into. And I did a master's degree in cryptography.
Nice.
And so from there, I ended up in 2004, right after I finished that degree, going to BlackBerry.
Oh, okay.
And at the time,
I was a fan of BlackBerry.
Many of us were. But at the time, so BlackBerry is based in Waterloo, Ontario.
Okay, I did not know
It is
that.
actually a product of the University of Waterloo. The university does a very interesting thing that many other universities do not do worldwide, and it has created a entrepreneur ecosystem around it, which is they do not claim the patents of the people who work for them.
Wow, that is something, because that's one of the bugaboos in the US when you have been working on like a research project or whatever, when you decide you want to turn that into a company, the university stands there with their hand out and says, we want licensing fees because...
Right, exactly. And so that is a strategic move that Waterloo made, I don't know when, very early, I think, maybe even in their founding, as a way to attract top talent to their university when they were newer in the 1950s. Sure. But we have the biggest tech ecosystem outside of the US in Waterloo, in our small... I was going to
say outside of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I ended up working there, and it wasn't actually called BlackBerry then. It was never called BlackBerry while I worked for it. It was Research in Motion.
Yeah,
But now we all just call it BlackBerry.
Yeah.
And I got to start working there before there was 1 million BlackBerry users, and as a security software developer. And that's what I did. Our team of 5 people at the time was responsible for all of BlackBerry security. And we got to live the bleeding, what we liked to call the bleeding edge of mobile
technology.
Security, because none of that happened before.
Exactly. And that's how I ran into BlackBerry. I was in finance at the time. And so it's like, you couldn't have just any cell phone. You needed something more secure. Yeah.
And it was like, what a lot of people don't remember is it was the first smartphone. That was 2004. It wasn't the first one they had released. We were using them then, and iPhones didn't come out till 2007 in a response to BlackBerry.
Yeah,
because they saw that as the opportunity. And then BlackBerry messed it up and just kind of, it all fell apart. And that was a sad thing to watch happen.
Yeah. What would you say were the moves they should have made that they didn't?
The biggest problem came with the patents. So they had us patenting prolifically. That's actually one of my patents behind me.
Very nice.
From BlackBerry. I only have 20. So
you only have 20. Yeah,
let me put this in perspective.
My husband only has 14, so you're doing great.
Well, but let me put this in perspective for you. Before I arrived on the team, they were patenting anything that said we were doing this type of security on a mobile device. Adding the on a mobile device was patentable.
Oh, okay.
And so the team of 5 people that I was on, by that point in time, those 4 guys I was working with, when I joined, had 50 to 100 patents each already.
Wow. Okay.
And so I kind of missed the peak of when the patenting was extremely crazy. But I still have a coworker, my old boss. He's still there. And I just checked in with him recently, and he has over 1,000 patents.
Wow.
He said the next most patented person at BlackBerry that is still there, is like 100 or something. But the team I was on was the most prolific patenting team at BlackBerry. Okay, so back to why this was a problem. Basically, there was, and I don't remember the name of it, but one of those private equity firms that collects patents claimed that we were infringing on them. And there was a massive, massive lawsuit that happened over many years that I don't even remember if we won or we lost. It
kind of doesn't matter. There are no winners when that situation develops.
No. So essentially what happened kind of in the aftermath of that is that any new features had to go through the legal team. And that was one
really
aspect of it.
Squelch your innovation. Yeah.
That squelched the innovation. Exactly. There was many other factors towards what went wrong. Another one is like the response to Apple was not the right response. Internally, it was very much like, well, they don't even have copy and paste. The first iPhone didn't have copy and paste. Yeah. How are they ever going to compete with us?
Oh, so there was an arrogance happening there.
There was. Yeah. There was many, many, many things, but those kind of 2 things were the catalyst to, and then trying to respond to Apple quickly enough with our own innovation was the very first time we ever had BlackBerries manufactured outside of Canada. And those BlackBerries came back broken.
Oh, no.
They didn't. And so there's this whole generation of BlackBerry where it had this touch screen thing and they were all broken because there had been such, like, the one thing about BlackBerries were they were so high quality.
Yeah,
you couldn't
and so
break
reliable.
them.
I turfed mine more times than you can count.
Right.
And this was before you had cases to protect them.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't need a case. Like, they were mostly indestructible unless you drove over it with a car. And it was because there was so much rigorous, like, hardware and software testing before they went out through our Canadian, like, manufacturing was down the street.
Yeah.
Was down the street. And so when they tried to do this response and they went to another, it doesn't even matter what the third country was. It just wasn't done the same way. And it
Yeah,
came
it's
back
not
so broken that
nearly
like,
as nimble to
yeah,
fix that kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. So there's many factors, but I think those two are widely known as the larger catalysts. And then internally, it just became this crazy turf war of
And that's
like,
never good either.
and it was horrible near the end. It was great in the beginning and then it was horrible. And so I actually left BlackBerry in 2011, which is well before anybody on the outside of the company saw what was happening, but it was clear as day to me what was going to happen. They hadn't even launched that device yet in 2011, and but
Yeah.
it was just clear as day to me. Maybe they had. No, they had. It was clear as day to me that it was just going
Yeah.
down. It was going down. And I
Well,
was like,
and once the enemy is inside the company and there's a turf war going on, there nothing good is going to happen.
no.
Yeah.
No, so I decided to leave, and it was the best move I could have ever done for my career. I'd been there for 8 years. I went to a horrible company. Sadly, I did not really look where I was landing and ended in I got headhunted out. So it was like there was a nice ego
Yeah.
streak there. And
Sure.
but my new boss was a misogynist. He was a bully. Those were things I hadn't encountered there. My direct team at BlackBerry was incredible. It
Yeah.
was incredible. It was so supportive. Was the whole company supportive of women in tech? Maybe ish,
Ish. Yeah.
ish, but it wasn't egregious. This was horrible. It destroyed my self-esteem in 10 months. And I just had to get out. And I
Yeah.
used some of my connections to get out into another company that had a really good reputation for being good to work at locally, which is, they used to be called Desire to Learn. Now they're D2L. They create education software. So I actually left
You're,
cybersecurity for,
you're actually kind of back in teaching.
yeah, I know, crazy, right?
I know. We're up on our first break here. So I want to hear a little bit more about how this unrolled because I know there's a lot more coming down the pike. Before we go to break, I'm going to invite you, dear listener, grab your pen, grab your piece of paper, and spend a little time around your work history. What were some of the places that you loved working? What were some of the places that you hated working? What were some of the places that after you left, something happened that maybe there were signs of it before you took off? Because when we can look back on our history and our experiences and put them into a context, that actually helps us to create frameworks for decisions moving forward. So spend a little time with your history and hang with us. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, shout it loud, the world here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. Feel no fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I'm back with Dinah Davis. And before the break, I asked you to think back on your own career history, the places that were good to work at, why were they good to work at, the places that were horrible to work at, why were they horrible? What were some of the signs of change that were going on at the companies that you can look back on and use as ways to inform yourself moving forward? Because I think that's one of the most important things we can take away from a job, whether it was quote unquote successful or nice or unsuccessful or unnice, is the understanding for the dynamics and when it's time to go and when it's time to dig deeper and make a difference. So tell us a little bit, Dinah, about D2L.
Yeah, so I knew going in there, it had a better reputation in town as far as like a place people wanted to work.
Right.
And it wasn't in cybersecurity, but I thought, maybe that's okay. Maybe I'll take a break from that for a while and just try something new, right?
Yeah.
So I went over there and yeah, I had a pretty good time. Like I started as a manager, I helped solve some really big problems for the company overall. They brought in a ticketing system that had no plan on how it would be used by everyone. And
Oh, yeah.
I am somebody who just likes to know how things are going to be used, and worked out how my team would use it, then worked out how my co-teams would use it, where we had 3 or 4 teams in a department. So I convinced my boss that our department should use it this way. And then I convinced people above them that their departments should all use it the same so that we can actually get proper reporting out of it. And that started to get me visibility at the higher level of the company. And then also while we were there, they wanted to move from these 6-month, very historical types of releases, like 6-month releases to
these sprints.
Releasing on a monthly cadence.
Okay.
And we got a group of like the 20 dev managers all into a room to figure out how we could do that. And we realized we had 5 weeks of testing for every release.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's
more than a month.
Right. So 1, we needed to find some efficiencies in testing. And 2, about 2-3 of us together came up with this not novel idea at all, but just brought this idea of a release train into the company, where you spend 1 month developing, 1 month testing, 1 month deploying. And the reason we did have to still have a month deploying was that many of the companies had on-prem software. It wasn't all in the cloud yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you had to actually show up or mail them something. Yes.
Right. Yes. And so this again brought, like, no one asked me to do this. I was a dev manager, but this is part of my, like, how do you become successful in a career is you solve the problems no one else is willing to solve.
Exactly.
And so then that elevated me even further. And then they had this giant reorg where they literally pulled apart all the teams and created new teams, except my team. My team got to stay together.
Okay.
And
cool.
I was the only dev manager then brought in and given a second team.
Wow.
And got promoted to senior manager during that time. And then it was a good place to work, but there was some issues. There's always issues. I mean, there's always issues, right?
Yeah, there's no perfect place, right?
But I was getting to the point where I wanted to be promoted to director. And I felt like I deserved to be promoted to director. But when I went and had a conversation with the CTO, he kind of just looked at me and said, well, maybe you could be a junior director.
Really?
And I was like, wow, you would never tell a man that.
No.
And fine, even if you don't think that I am ready to become a director, give me feedback on why.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
that didn't really happen. So that triggered for me, well, now I'm going to start looking for a job, because I can stay here and work with the beautiful people on the teams that I have. They were lovely. But I decided I'm going to leave. And the only reason I'm going to leave is if I can find a director level job. I'm not moving to another company to be a manager. That's not happening. Because that was my criteria for leaving, was like, I want upward career mobility. And I was about 4 or 5 months after that conversation, my boss had left. And they didn't tell us what was going to happen until a week after he left. We had no boss. They didn't even tell us. Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay.
So there was this opening right there, right in front of them.
Exactly. Even just as interim, they could have.
As interim, they could have set me up. And they chose not to. And so that was like kind of the final straw for me. So I decided to go looking for a new job. And I was very specific in my search. I wanted to find a startup that was coming out of chaos mode, that needed somebody to build their organization and their team, because that is what I am good at.
Yeah.
I am very good at building high performing software development teams. And so I went very specifically looking for that. And I ended up finding 3 potential companies. One did not want to give me a director title, so they were out. And the other 2 I got offers from. And I had to make a choice. And the choice was basically between a company that was very hot, very popular at the time in our area, run by 3 20-something-year-old men.
Okay.
Or a very unknown, very small cybersecurity company run by 2 people in their 50s and 60s who had successful IPOs.
Oh, well, ding, 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 ding.
One was a cybersecurity company. The other wasn't. They were doing other things, very cool things. And the cybersecurity company was going to pay me 50% more. So then everything just became very clear.
Yeah, exactly.
And I got to go
kind
back.
of really brings things into focus.
Yeah. And I got to go back into cybersecurity to finish off my career. And it was a great experience. It was hard. When I started there was 35 people in the company. There was 15 people in the software development team that I was leading. They hired me as a director. 3 years later, they promoted me to VP. And in retrospect, I have mixed feelings because it was a very hard personal journey for me. There was a lot of politics there, a lot of the time, but I also got to do some of the best work I've ever done in my life at the same time.
Yeah, it's kind of the love-hate relationship that I think many people develop with startup.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we grew so fast. So in 5 years, we actually unicorned. But yeah, and they had been going for about 3 years before me, and then we did that. But at around that 5-year mark, things started to shift a lot. The leadership of the company changed, moved to a much more sales focused organization. The
Right.
leader was the former sales leader, which I personally don't think is a great thing for a software company because R&D is run very differently from sales. And you can't run it on numbers the same. You can run it on numbers, but very different kinds of numbers than you run a sales organization.
Well, and I think anything that has engineering at the core of what it's offering.
Right.
We see this with Boeing. Boeing had that happen to their corporate leadership as well. They put a bunch of stock savvy, sales focused people at the top of it, and they stopped listening to their engineers. They forced all of the engineers and people with engineering backgrounds out of the upper leadership, which is a huge mistake.
Yeah, which is what's happened at this company too. So anyway, around that time, I started to need to think about whether I was going to leave. And this is the topic of your podcast, so I'm trying to get you there.
And I think we are almost there. Tell me about your 3 criteria, because we talked a little bit about the upward mobility that forced the decision at an earlier company.
Right. And so that really wasn't the case anymore, upward mobility. I mean, VP, did I want to get higher than VP? Not really. I'm not actually good enough at the politics.
Like C-suite,
to be C-suite. And I honestly, I really feel like unless you can be in a company where empathy matters at the very top, at the C-suite, and you actually care a little bit more about what your employees and customers need than the bottom line.
Yeah.
I don't think you can be a C-level without being a little bit nasty. I'm just going to say it.
There's
can't do it.
There's a reason that there's a high proportion of dark triad people who end up in the C-suite because our current economic system rewards that.
It does. It does. It's exactly right. The whole system around investing and
restructuring and growth.
But based on these capital investment companies, the model forces it. The model absolutely forces. It's why you get the enshittification of everything online, because the model forces it. So I was probably at the top of where I wanted to really realistically be, but it was really getting toxic. And so I had these 3 criteria, which was 1, can I put up with the bullshit?
Yeah.
Can I physically, emotionally put up with the bullshit? Number 2 was, can I affect positive change for the people that work for me or that are within my purview? They're not always working for me, but within my purview, and our customers. And 3rd, has enough stock vested. Which is, and I think we have to be realistic about this.
It's a practical consideration,
Other people might not use has enough stock vested. They might use has my bonus come in. They might use is there other packages?
Yeah, like has my pension vested, could be pension, right? I mean, because well, let's put it this way: you don't want to walk away right before your financial ship comes in.
No, if you can avoid
additional months, and exactly. At least take why you were there out with you as well.
Right. So 2021, January 2021 was the first real moment for me of a situation happened that I don't really want to share the whole situation, but it was devastating to me.
Yeah.
The situation, what I realized was happening in the company, that I was being pushed, that I had helped them build all of this. And I was a little bit getting pushed aside.
Yes.
And
I think we've discussed this. My husband's been through a similar
Yeah.
process in a startup. Yeah.
yeah. So I had to decide. I was really seriously like, do I want to stay here if this is the case, you know?
Yeah.
And I really feel like my number one question, could I put up with the bullshit? That meter was out.
Yeah, it had pegged
The
a long
answer
time
was
ago.
actually no. Could I continue to put up with the bullshit? But I had a new boss, and that new boss was willing to become a bit of an umbrella for me that I had never had before. I'd never had an umbrella
Yeah.
before me, a shit umbrella. I had been the shit umbrella for everyone below me.
Well, let's talk about what being a shit umbrella looks
Yeah.
like, because I used to create what I called a bubble around my
Yeah.
team.
Yes.
And I suspect it's a similar concept.
It's a similar concept. It's basically like the way I always see it is if I was in their shoes, what would I want to know and how would I want to be treated? And I really just feel like this is empathetic servant leadership, which is my MO. And there are some things they don't need to know about why decisions are made because it's just going to be demoralizing.
Yeah.
And so, one, you pass on the information that's important. You never keep them in the dark.
Right.
That's also a problem. You can't just be a wall. You can be an umbrella and some of stuff will drip over, right? Or splash
Right.
back up in your case of
Yes.
Louisiana rain. But you can protect them to some degree so they don't have to see some of this stuff.
Right. And they don't have
And
to
the-
wonder about what their future is.
Right.
I know I would have these meetings where it's like, okay, what is the grapevine saying? What is it that you guys are concerned about?
Right.
Because, I mean, there's always rumors and stuff going around. So I did very active rumor management.
Yeah.
And I
And
would
it was
confirm
also-
what I could confirm, and I would find
Correct.
out what I couldn't, you know?
Right. And never lying, but also pushing back upwards to stop some of those things from happening as part of being that, to stop some decisions that I felt were counterintuitive or counterproductive.
Yes.
Counterproductive. But there is a large emotional toll that takes on the person
Yes.
being the shit umbrella. And because I am an extremely empathetic person and someone who likes to be liked, which I've continued to work on my entire life of realizing that you must be respected but not liked. Especially
And it's tough to not strive for that.
right?
I'm
And
one of these
especially
people
hard when
who
the people
also
are
likes
above
that.
you.
Yeah.
Right? It's very hard. That's a very hard thing to do. But anyway, it does take a toll, a stress toll. When I talk about the bullshit, that's what I mean. Is really having been that umbrella for so long, and I was so burnt out from being that umbrella. But there was a new boss here, and he said he could be that umbrella for a while. And you know what he did? He did do that for me. But ultimately, that wasn't the reason I decided to stay. It was my other two questions that I had for myself. Can I affect positive change? And the answer was he was going to put me into a new role that I didn't love because I wouldn't be directly leading dev teams anymore. But I would be responsible for the entire process for all of the engineering organization and how that worked with product. And we had just spent like 6 years scaling. And a lot of the processes we had in place were still from when the dev team was more like 50 to 70 people. And now we were going to be growing. At that time, I think we were close to 100, and we were going to be growing to 300 within a year and a half.
And now you need a different approach. Yeah.
And I was like, it's actually a lot. If someone offered me this job, not in this company, I would jump. I would jump at this job. This is a cool job. This is something that I'd never done. And I was like, yes, I can definitely affect a lot of positive change. This is going to be really interesting. And then the last question was, had enough stock vested? And there was like a pretty large chunk of stock that needed about another 1.5 to 2 years to vest. And I was like, okay, let's stick it out. I have a new shit umbrella. He's above me. I have an interesting new job that isn't necessarily how I saw this trajectory going, but is interesting, and I can do some cool stuff. And I spent the next year building an organization of 3 people into an organization of 40 people.
Nice.
Built out training, built out docs, built out all the process and the release train for a more larger scaled organization to work with product. all of those things. And then about a year later, they changed my boss's boss.
Oh, no.
And that person brought in all their people,
Of course.
and they started to freeze out my boss. And
Mm.
they forced my boss into early retirement. And I guess by the time we got to fall of 2022, the answer to the second question was becoming, can you affect positive change? Was becoming no.
Yeah.
You are becoming a cog in this new wheel. And by staying, you are accepting their new way of doing things. You are becoming part of it. You will be looked at as somebody who
You're
is enabling it.
perpetrating. Yes.
And I cannot do that. And the last question, had enough stock vested?
Close
There was
enough.
still there was
Yeah.
still stuff on the table that I was leaving,
Yeah.
but enough had vested.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to step away, and enough stock had vested that I've retired. And I was fortunate to get into the window where we could still privately sell the stocks, which you cannot do anymore. Made some smart choices there. And now I do this whole new world of separate things. But
I love
that's
that.
the criteria and how I used it. And I asked myself those questions a lot.
Yeah,
And without them, I think it would have been
sounds like
harder.
it wasn't a one and done. Ask the question. It's like
No.
periodically, I'm having a bad day. Let's ask the questions.
Yeah. Yeah. The conversation with my husband was constant. But I think people need this. They need a framework of some kind. They need to figure out what those questions are for them
Yeah.
and for their role. And for different companies, those questions were different.
Right.
At BlackBerry, it was like, is this whole, like, for me there, it was, should I stay? It's a very crazy environment right now, but will I see career progression here? Maybe, because all this turf war is like, maybe that could fall in my favor, but probably not.
Yeah.
And two, just the direction of the company looked wrong to me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need to get out now. Well, I still have this cachet of working at BlackBerry,
Was a big deal. It was, yeah.
and it opened up doors that
Like
same
being
kind of,
Fang today, right?
it is being,
Yeah.
it's exactly the same as being Fang today. Just open doors for you that weren't there before, right? Yeah, the second job, it was really just my mental health was completely collapsing under the
Yeah, and it was very clear. Yeah.
yeah, and so that was just like, did I have a criteria? No, it was just like, oh my God, I can't even live here. And
Yeah,
then
that was the overriding criteria, honestly.
yeah. And D12 was a lovely place, but the criteria of can I continue to move up what seemed
is
to be
there a
no.
growth path, and it's
And yeah.
I
So
love
it does
that.
change.
So
It does change as you go.
We're up on our second break here. So I would like to invite you, dear listener, take your pen, take your piece of paper, and think about what your questions are. Why do you choose to stay where you're at right now? What would change about that would require you to rethink it? What are your questions? What are your criteria? Is it a growth trajectory? Do you feel appreciated where you're at? How is your mental health doing? And think about what your criteria are for staying and leaving where you're at right now. And hang with us. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, checked it loud, the wolf here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I'm back with Dinah Davis, and we will return to what she did after she met the criteria for that particular job and decided to leave. I know you spent some time with your list, and I want you to know that what's on your list has to be what's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would never just take Dinah's 3 questions.
No.
That would never work. Okay. And she even said that hers evolved over the years, right? So make sure that you're asking questions that are appropriate to what's important to you in terms of your mental health, your career satisfaction, and your financial situation.
Yes.
So, all right. you left.
I
You
left.
left with a parachute, which is a beautiful thing. Not everybody gets to go with a parachute.
No, they don't.
So what happened after you left?
Well, I thought I would take a month break.
Okay. And was it a month break?
Well, technically it was, yeah. Because look at, like, I was 43. I've been retired now for 3 years. And I thought like a month would be enough to just reset. And then I had all these projects lined up, working directly with a startup as an advisor, like doing a couple days a week, working with a few different startup incubators.
Mhm.
I actually was working with 2 startups. And basically, that was just all a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
I was
I mean, it sounds good. Why was it a mistake?
I was so profoundly burnt out
Mm,
that I wasn't getting any joy from doing it like I thought I would.
yeah.
And that summer, so I left, I retired in beginning of February. I started getting into that stuff late March. And then by September, in the summertime, we had done a couple trips as a family.
Sure.
And I had just realized like how disengaged I was from these activities and that I needed to just rethink what was happening. And so, a couple things I realized. So, in the fall, right before I retired, I had blood work done.
Okay.
And I had high cholesterol. I had almost pre-diabetic sugars in my
Numbers,
blood.
yeah. Mhm.
Even though I did work out 3 times a week, which seems like a reasonable thing to have done, and I walked
Yeah.
regularly. But
Well, and it probably would have been worse if you hadn't.
right, exactly. Like, exactly. I was concerned about my health. We had been on a trip that summer and we were just trying to walk down the beach, and I was getting out of breath. And I was like, this is not okay. I need to
Yeah.
switch the focus here to my health, to what's going to give me joy, to my family, and then probably also dealing with early signs of perimenopause and
Yes.
figuring that all out. And so, really, I ended up dropping doing all of those extra things. The only thing I kept really doing was one-on-one mentoring with women because that always has given me a lot of joy, and running Code Like a Girl, which is my online publication, which was actually quite a low amount of work at that time, which is now a huge amount of work.
Well, it grows.
These things happen. So it was on Medium, and Medium's not doing that well. So it was like a small thing that I was doing. And then I spent the next 2 years getting healthy, figuring out all the things that were going wrong with perimenopause and getting all of that sorted out. So I feel like myself again, getting healthier. Like this winter, I got a blood test, another blood test, and almost everything is green now. Not even not even close to pre-diabetic anymore.
Yeah,
Far away.
I had
cholesterol numbers are almost all perfect. Just the the healthy cholesterol's not high enough, but okay.
Well,
like
I'll
have
deal
a few
with
more
that. Nuts or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had a similar health crisis myself at that same kind of age, that end of 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes you just have to pay attention and make that a priority.
But I'd spent so much of my life doing so many things all the time. It was like it was ingrained in me that had to still be the expectation, right? Like the same year I started working at Arctic Wolf as a director, I started Code Like a Girl on Medium. The same year I started at Arctic Wolf, I finished going through an eating disorder program.
Yeah.
So I was raising a young child. There was always a lot going on, and I just always made time for it. But the thing was, it just so long of doing that, 20 years of doing that, had just depleted me so much that I apparently needed 2 years to recover from it.
Yeah.
And I once asked my husband, I said, what would have happened if financially I couldn't have left in the way that I have been able to leave? Like, what would have happened? And he was just like, you would have left and we would have figured it out.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because when my crisis happened, I was still working. And what I figured out was I had to say no to some shit that I was taking on.
Right.
that had nothing to do with me, that didn't bring me joy,
Right.
and that gave me more space to take care of myself in a way that I needed to take care of myself.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And that's how it looks. You figure it out. Now, if you have the blessing of a parachute that allows you to just take the time off and clear your calendar completely, I think that's a wonderful privilege to have. But if you don't
Yes.
have
And I do
that
realize that it is a
privilege, it's
to
still
realize that.
possible. It's still possible. You just have to get more creative with your spouse, your family, your friends, the people around you.
Well, yeah. And actually, partway through my job at Arctic Wolf, my husband started working 90% time. So
Okay.
he started taking every second Friday off to get stuff done in our household to make it better. Like
Nice.
that career that I had definitely made me the person that we optimized for many, many years. And he really didn't have an issue with that. It's not who he is. He supported me through all of that. And now he works at a really cool startup that he likes. And
Yay.
things are a little more focused for him. But he still worked. Once he started working 90% time, he's never gone back. Because it's just, he gets as much done. But we made adjustments. And fortunately, for many of those years, my parents had moved to be closer. They really helped us a lot. I learned to say no to more things. I started Code Like a Girl in 2016. And in 2018, my world was kind of coming apart at the seams a little bit with stress and everything. And I actually gave it away.
Wow. Okay.
I actually completely gave it away to another lovely lady that ran it from the States for 2.5, 3.5 years. And then her life started coming apart at the seams. And she messaged me back and she's like, do you want it back? Do you want it back? It'll either die or do you want it back? And I was like, I don't want it back. I'll take it back. I'll take it back. Let's do that. And, sometimes living through it when you can't leave means making some hard choices. At that time in my life, the job wasn't going to be the thing that went. My health couldn't be the thing that went. My family wasn't the thing that went. My side hustle, that was the thing that had to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So took you 2.5 years to actually recover.
Yeah.
And I think it's appropriate to sit with that for a minute because we don't always get to clearly put a number on what something costs us.
Yeah.
And that's a really measurable thing. I went through 2.5 years to actually get back to being myself, to pull myself out of the burnout, to reverse the health damages that were going on. So I think it's an important thing to weigh when you're looking at what is your current job costing you. Because it's very easily for us as women to go, well, I have to have the job. And there's a million reasons why you would like to keep the job. But sometimes it's better to walk away from the job, to make a plan to depart from the job. Because I know some of us can't just quit tomorrow and walk away, right?
No.
That's not always a
not in this
practical
job
thing.
market.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in this job market. That would be the smart thing to do.
Exactly. Start networking, start laying the groundwork, start thinking about what the next thing needs to look like, and start putting those wheels in motion. Because I know it sounds like an extra thing to do, but it's a thing that will give you more energy and more hope. So it's a worthwhile investment, even though you're probably feeling quite stressed and stretched. So how do you tell the difference between a rough patch in your body, like laying down an ultimatum, I'm done?
I mean, I think you can it feels a little different, right? A rough patch feels hard, but there is often a light at the end. You can kind of see that maybe if you get past this thing, I mean, it's something you can use to make it worse too, is like, I just need to get past this and then I'll be okay. I'll get past this and I'll be okay.
If only I get to,
But if you can spend some time prioritizing the things you're doing, divesting some of them, and you actually start feeling a little bit better after that, then you're going to be okay. And learning to say no. A friend of mine always says, no is a full sentence.
Yes.
You don't have to
Exactly.
explain why. It's just the answer is no.
Yeah, and you can say
And
it
that is it.
nicely. You don't have to
Yep.
be like, no. You
Yeah.
can be
Just
like, no.
no, I can't do that right now. Thank you. Sorry. Thanks for the opportunity, but no, I can't fit that in. I don't have the
Yeah,
cycles for that.
exactly.
That's my
Well,
favorite.
and
Was like, no, I
I
don't really have the
find
cycles for that. Sorry, but thank you for the opportunity.
exactly. I don't have the cycles for that. I like to give them an alternative path because a lot of people will push back and it's like, oh, I don't have anyone else to ask. Well, here's a few suggestions.
Yes, right. Yes. There you go. Yes, I've done that too. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and that helps with the guilt side of things. It's like, yeah, I'm not your only option. Thank you. Moving right
But
along.
yeah, the deep-seated burnout, it's things like our actual health markers starting to show,
Yeah.
right? Like mine, in my case, diabetes, cholesterol. Do you just feel this hollowness of you can't get there? Like you're
Yeah.
just so
There's
tired
just
all the time.
no recovery. You wake up in the morning and it's not any better than when you went to bed last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe some of these signs are also signs of depression, which I also dealt with, was on medication for 12 years for that. And leaving the workforce has allowed me to come off those medications. That's not always an option for everyone. That's not a suggestion that you should or a judgment that you should.
Right. And
It's
some
a
people have what they call organic depression that runs in my family. And so you need to be aware of your own health background as well,
yeah.
because it
Those
may
are
or may
conversations
not
with
be
your
the
doctor.
exactly
But what I'm saying is these are things that are starting to show up
right.
and compound. Then possibly you need to look at how to change your life to relieve some of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But honestly, the most powerful thing is the word no.
No, no is amazing.
And also, I think one thing that was really powerful for me was during that time, I had some therapy where the therapist really got me to see how I was being empathetic for everyone else and I
And not for
wasn't
yourself.
being empathetic for myself.
Yeah.
And we would walk through all the things I was telling myself, like I had to do this and I need to be the best. And why am I failing? And why am I like all these negative things? And she just looked at me and she said, okay, you're going to pretend you're sitting in the chair across from you. Or you can pretend it's your friend and your friend is telling you all of these things. Would you say any of this back to your friend? And I was like, oh my God, no, I would never say these things to somebody else. And she's like, why are you saying them to yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
And so starting to learn that self-awareness of needing to give yourself the same empathy and care that you give other people, that's important. All of this self-care bullshit that they try and sell you, like you just need a massage. You just need a
Not
I
that I
don't know,
ever
some
say
candles. No one needs to say no to a massage. I'm not saying that.
but yeah, but it's not
but
going to solve the problem. Yeah.
no, the problems are going to get solved when you realize that you are as worth taking care of as your children are, as your spouse is, as your best friend is.
Employer, your friends, everyone.
Right. You need the same care or more care of yourself so you can continue to offer that to other people.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about the no is a complete sentence. And I think one of the places it becomes challenging is when you're trying to say no to a boss who controls a job that you currently need, your exit plan's not complete. And I think what I would suggest around that no, and you can weigh in with other things, is I would take that as an opportunity to negotiate. In other words, if they come to you with something and it's like, I don't have the cycles for that, and they're leaning on you, then I would go into, well, here's what's out on my plate right now. Okay, I don't have room for anything else. What would you like to give to somebody else so that I can take on this thing you're asking me to do?
Yeah, exactly.
And put it back on them so that you're not being the uncompliant employee, but you're also not getting railroaded into committing to more than you can handle.
Yeah. Yep.
So tell us just a little bit about Code Like a Girl
Yeah.
and give us some words of wisdom and we'll wrap this up.
Yeah. So I started it on Medium, in 2016 because I was looking for a place to put what I was writing about, which was at that time a lot of how to get girls into STEM, and then also like career posts about networking, what it was like to work in STEM and like their work in tech. And there was one or two publications maybe about women in tech, but they didn't like my stories. They rejected it. It wasn't polished enough for them,
Yeah.
which I was like, all right. And then I was like, well,
This
what
is
if I
this
created
is
my
not Instagram tech. This is like the real thing.
yeah. And I was like, I'm not a writer. I work in tech. I actually have serious issues with grammar and spelling. And I'm a, no, yeah, anyway.
But you know, a good thing in the day of AI because
Well,
now
yeah, it's
people
not a
know
problem
you're
anymore.
real.
So anyway, I was like, but you needed like in the early days of Medium, having a publication really got you more views. It really did.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I'm going to try and change the perceptions of women in technology or really get girls interested in STEM, trying to talk to their parents and that kind of stuff, I need more reach. So I was like, why don't I, like, how much work is it to create a publication? And I was like, oh, it's like 3 clicks.
All right,
And
well,
hence
let's do that.
a publication is born. And I already had this concept in like a mini website called Code Like a Girl from, it's a whole nother story we don't need to get into today, but how I named it. But anyway, then I thought like, what's more powerful than just my voice, but like hundreds of voices.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is so cool. So then I started asking my friends to write for my publication. And then I just went sourcing stories on Medium and requesting them to start writing for me. And it just blew up. And we were in the right place at the right time on Medium in that case, because their heyday years were 2016 to about 2019.
Yeah.
And we grew from like 0 followers to 35,000 in a year. And like some of our stories have millions of views, but they're all still from that time period because it's totally gone for a crash.
So are you Substack now?
Yes. So this is what happened. And I gave Code Like a Girl away in 2018. Then I got it back in 2021. And just the views were just abysmal. And they still really are not very good at all. Like we're really lucky to get 50 to 100 views per story for people.
Medium.
And it feels wrong. It just feels so demoralizing. So last August, like last February, I started writing on Substack myself.
Right.
I wanted a place where I could write about anything, like anything. And really my personal Substack, being fearless, being me, is anything. I'll write about crying in the grocery aisle because I found gluten-free food after my daughter was diagnosed with celiac disease. I'll write about how I've prevented deep tech from knowing too much about me, but while not living in a cabin in the woods. Or like yesterday, I published a story on how to create perks in Substack because this is just like, it's really everything. Yeah. And I realized it would be a better place for Code Like a Girl. So we're still in Medium, mostly as a funnel to Substack.
There you go.
But yeah, we've published, I believe at this point now, we have published over 80 authors on Substack, 80 women in tech. And our goal really on Substack is to become a community for people and women to help them feel seen and to let them say the things that are actually happening. And we're going to publish that because we just don't care, because somebody has to champion that for them to help them not feel alone anymore. And I will say that our writing has shifted to be much more about AI because that is currently the biggest topic we have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so we continue to grow. I think we're around 2,500 subscribers, which is great. And it's been a road, but like I literally spend now, I think I spend probably 30 plus hours a week working on this. So it's now become like a full-time job.
Your full-time focus, yes. I love that. So what would be your final words of wisdom to someone who's working the career angle and would like to build to a point where they might have a parachute exit?
Some people would, I guess, say, I mean, you just have to be at the right place at the right time. But I think you can also make strategic choices. So in 2015, I had 2 choices. I could go with the hottest company in town, or I could go with this unknown company, Arctic Wolf. And there was a few reasons I chose Arctic Wolf. And one of them was that the founders were previously successful.
Yes.
They had successfully IPO'd a previous company. They had connections in the Valley. They were from the Valley.
Yeah.
One founder's Canadian, one founder's American from the Valley.
Yes.
And because he had previously IPO'd a company that actually was like local to our ecosystem in Waterloo, when he was creating Arctic Wolf, he had a PowerPoint presentation that he went to some investors with and got $7 million.
Nice. Yeah.
6 months later, they went with a prototype. He got $20 million.
Yeah.
In 2017, we almost ran out of money because the company was slightly early to the market. People in the early days, we had to explain to them why they needed security monitoring.
Yes.
And the company didn't fold because he put $8 million of his own dollars
into it,
into the company. And then WannaCry and NotPetya hit, and ransomware became a huge problem, and the entire market changed.
Suddenly you didn't
and
have
we were
to
in
tell
the
them
right
why.
place then at the right time. So I strategically chose the company based on that. It wasn't just the salary. So then the question is, what happened to the other company?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, so they launched their crazy product. It didn't go very well. Google did acquire the company, but basically at cost.
Yeah.
So if you had stocks at that company and Google acquired you, you really didn't make any money. And the product it was basically smart glasses was their product.
Oh, okay, sure.
They were probably the first company to build smart glasses.
And
they were too early.
Yeah, and
still, I don't think smart glasses are going to
question.
be a go.
Yeah,
There's
actually.
too many privacy concerns. Let's just see how it's going for Meta right now. It's not going.
Yeah, it's not going well, even with Kylie Jenner wearing their stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway.
So yeah, strategically about who you're joining, I think is important.
And there is some luck, you know.
There definitely is some luck.
There is, but you also have to work really hard.
Well, and
I'm not going to lie.
I think when you looked at those two companies, you looked at them with a very investor-like mind frame. Because if you talk to a VC about what they actually invest in when they're looking at something early like this, they want to make sure that the product is solid and saleable, but they also want to know that they've got a team that knows what they're doing.
Right, exactly.
And the people are just as important as the product when they're evaluating something like that.
Yeah. So, previously successful founders, those are good people to go work for. They have a much higher chance of being successful again. Not always, but
yeah, the odds are stacked in your favor.
Because they're already connected to the entire investor network, which is one of the hardest things about being a startup is that you're not.
And you have you have a proven track record with that community. It's not just that you're connected, but they know that you've succeeded.
Correct.
Which is a big deal.
Correct. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom with us today. If you would like to reach out and get connected with Dinah, you can check the show notes. We'll have her social media down there. We'll have Code Like a Girl, all of that will be available for you to contact her. And I thank you so much for investing your time with us here today. I know there are many other ways you could have spent the last hour, and I'm glad you invested in yourself and the material that we're sharing with you here today. I would love to hear from you. Drop me a comment below the YouTube video, or you can shoot me an email to Zofia, Zofia, at steminstilettos.com. Tell me what you thought, who you'd like to see, what else you'd like to see addressed. I read everything that comes in and use it to inform my next guests and what we discuss moving forward. And until next week, go out, be bold, be beautiful, and be authentically you.